When you scroll through a dozen amp listings, you get that familiar rush of optimism. This one looks sleek, it's got reverb, it's a Fender, it must sound amazing. Then you order, you hook it up at home, and the excitement fizzles because the tone feels flat, the reverb sounds tinny, or the amp just can't keep up when you try to play with a band. I've seen that happen a lot, and it's why I wanted to break down the Fender 64 Custom Princeton Reverb before you click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Princeton Reverb has been a staple in Fender's lineup for decades, and the 64 Custom version is meant to be a modern, boutique-style reinterpretation of that classic. At first glance it promises the warm, all-tube sound that many players chase, plus a built-in spring reverb and tremolo that should give you that vintage vibe without a pedal board. The real question is whether those promises hold up when you actually plug it into your bedroom, a coffeehouse stage, or a cramped rehearsal space. Let's start with the basics that matter in a day-to-day setting. The amp is a 12-watt combo with a single 10-inch speaker. That size and power level puts it squarely in the home practice sweet spot. I've tried it in my own small apartment, and the clean tones are surprisingly full. The tube section really does give you that creamy, responsive feel when you roll your volume knob, and the reverb, while not a studio-grade unit, adds a lush depth that can make a simple chord progression sound a lot more interesting. For a singer-songwriter who likes to sit on a stool and strum acoustic-style chords on an electric, the Princeton delivers a tone that feels intimate without drowning the room. Now, let's talk about the hidden trade-offs. Because the amp is only 12 watts, you'll quickly notice the limits if you try to use it in a louder environment. I took it to a local open mic night where the room was filled with a drum kit and a couple of other electric guitars. Even with the master volume cranked, the amp started to break up in a way that sounded more like distortion than the warm overdrive you'd get from a larger head. The single-channel design means you don't have separate clean and drive channels to switch between on the fly. You have to rely on the guitar's own pickup selection or a pedal to get a gritty tone. If you're a player who needs a quick Clento Crunch switch for a gig, that could be a workflow hurdle. Who should consider buying this amp? First, anyone who values the classic Fender tone and wants it in a portable, low-power package. It's perfect for bedroom practice, small room rehearsals, and even recording directly into a DAW. The built-in reverb and tremolo mean you can get a vintage-ish ambience without buying extra pedals, which is a boon for beginners or minimalist rigs. If you're a gigging musician who only needs to play a coffeehouse set or a quick acoustic electric slot, the Princeton can sit on a small stage and still be heard without overwhelming the PA. Also, if you're a collector who appreciates the nod to the 64 aesthetic, those hand-rolled chrome knobs and the vintage-style grill cloth, it will fit nicely on a shelf as both a functional amp and a piece of Fender history. Who should skip it? Players who rely on higher volume levels, such as metal or hard rock guitarists, will likely find the 12-watt output insufficient. The amp's clean headroom caps out fairly low, and while you can push the tubes into overdrive, the resulting distortion is more of a warm breakup than the tight, high-gain sound you might expect from a modern high-gain amp. Also, if you regularly play in larger venues or need multiple channels for quick tone changes, you'll probably be better served by a larger combo or a separate head and cabinet setup. Finally, if you're on a tight budget, the Princeton sits at a premium price point for its wattage, so you might get more power for a similar cost with another brand. A practical strength that often gets overlooked is the amp's durability for a tube combo of this size. The chassis feels solid, and the speaker is mounted in a way that reduces vibration rattles, which can be a nuisance when you're gigging on a stage with a lot of low-frequency bleed. I've moved it around a lot, from a cramped practice room to a friend's basement show, and it has held up without any loose knobs or cracked knobs, something you might not notice in a spec sheet but matters when you're lugging gear around. On the flip side, the lack of a built-in headphone jack means you can't practice silently without an external solution. A lot of modern practice amps include a headphone output or a line out for direct recording, but the Princeton expects you to plug into a speaker or a separate amp. If you live in an apartment with thin walls, you'll need an extra DI box or a